Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Explain the last time you were actually scared. It can be for any reason at all. Did you walk around the corner and someone was standing there and startle you? Have you seen something scary on TV? Something scary on the net? Someone stalking you? Unexplained noises? Creepy story your grandfather told you while sitting around a campfire? Just be truthful and don't exaggerate. The last time I was scared was when I was walking to the store last night. Around 2-3 a.m. The quickest way to the store is by cutting through someone's backyard, which is a small patch of woods. Before I cut through the woods, about 10 car lengths behind me, I see someone walking towards the same direction as me. I didn't think much of it. A lot of people have been taking this path to get to the store since long before I was born. So I get to the store and go in and notice the person that was behind me enter the store too. He looks like just an average dude to me. Average build dude with a dark blue hoodie and black jeans. I walk around picking out some snacks and beverages. I notice he's following me through the store. It's a Hess, so it's not really all that big. Everywhere I went in the store, he was always 4 or 5 feet behind me. This is making me uncomfortable, so I go to the front counter and set my things down and ask if I can leave them there for a minute. The clerk says it's cool, and I go into the bathroom and wait for a few minutes. When I get out, I looked around and saw that the person following me was leaving the store. I go up to the clerk and tell him that the guy was weirding me out. The clerk tells me that they didn't even buy anything. I noticed that he went back towards the way of the path I took to get there. I decided to take the long way back home. As I get about a block away, I hear, "Yo, come over here, I want to talk to you." I run as fast as I possibly can until it feels like I'm going to puke my lungs out. Made it home and safe, and now I'm telling you all about it.
Sounds like self-preservation fear to me. The last time I was scared was when I was walking into my bathroom late at night. Every time I have to go late at night, I kind of get a dread feeling. And it doesn't help that I have to walk down a hall of about 5 feet, then look around a corner, and see all kinds of silhouette shapes before I turn the light on, and that the light always flickers the same way when it comes on, and that the bathroom itself is like 14 feet long that I have to traverse, and look around another corner to look in the tub. I don't think it's supernatural so much as this damn creepy house I just moved into this month. And really, it's so weird because I don't mind going outside in the dark and walking around. But the master bedroom's bathroom that has an unnatural amount of space devoted to it and is connected to the master bedroom solely? For some reason, it's just creepy.
This was around 2007 or 8 when I was doing A-levels and I had to get material for art. Haunted house, just down the road, about 100 yards away. Supposedly haunted because it sticks out like a sore thumb, has been arsoned several times. The council bought it, but it was too expensive to redo. So they just left it. It looks creepy as shit, and surprised it's still standing. The house is huge in our area. It has like 2 acres of garden, despite it being overgrown, etc. Druggies obviously use this place, since it's rather secluded and needles are everywhere. Because of the rust and shit, I thought it would be cool material for art. It was, and I loved it. I got very high grades at the end. Take Dad's Nikon D40X and head round on a Saturday afternoon. Check out round the back and find the garage. Coolest rust shit ever, so start taking pictures. It's a warm day, probably 24 Celsius, sunny and no clouds. It has been like this for a week. Feel like I'm being watched when taking the pictures. Looking up at the house round the back looked even creepier. Weather suddenly changes, starts hailing the shit down. Leg it back home with what pictures I have. The sun comes out again, and there are no clouds. Realize it hailed hardcore for literally 4 minutes. I really didn't see that coming, and was scared up to the moment I arrived home.
Be me. Be like 7. Be from Mexico. Go to a really expensive school. The only reason me and my brother go there is because our mom teaches there and she can have us there for free. Most kids there are from rich families who got there by either being successful or drug dealers. Mostly drug dealers though. Get invited to a party. Mom takes us there. She leaves us and she goes back to our house because she teaches in our house too. Be having mad fun in this super cool party with all these cool things. Be hungry. Go to the hot dog stand for one. Start hearing some noises. Lady who is behind me grabs my shoulder for some reason. Start hearing an old lady crying outside. Hear some dude screaming in Spanish. Start hearing loud noises. Like 5, maybe 6 shitheads with ski masks suddenly enter through a big door. They are shooting automatic guns. The lady pushed me hard behind the hot dog stand as if I fell down to my knees and actually hurt a ton. She tells me to stay there and not to move. Lady gets shot in the leg trying to save me. Lay down there thinking about my little brother who was 4 years old at the time. Some oldish lady tells me to crawl over to her. I do, and she hugs me like in a protective manner. Shitheads are still shooting, but they aren't doing it randomly as they were at the start. They kill the birthday girl's father and like 3 more family members of hers. Her father actually shoots back at them before he goes down but can't get anyone. Shooters leave. Some ladies offered to give me a ride home. I don't even know who these ladies are. I think I'll get kidnapped or something. I still can't find my brother. Tell them that I won't go anywhere until I find my brother. Look for him everywhere. At this point, I'm worried sick about him. Where was my little brother after all this shit went down? Go outside. Across the street, there's my brother sitting down on the sidewalk. He still has his candy bag and is okay. Run over to him and almost get hit by a car. Trust the ladies who offered to take us home. Somehow I knew how to give perfect directions to our house. Get home. Mum cries when she sees us after she finds out what happened. My yellow shirt had blood spatters from the lady who got shot behind me. I think like 3 kids got kidnapped after the shooting. If I recall correctly, 2 were found, but a girl was not.
Be me. Middle of the night, around 1 a.m. I live in a relatively rural area. 4 friends, we'll call them George, Dan, Christine, John, and I decide we want to go dicking around in the woods by George's house. All we have are cheap LED flashlights and our phones for light. Cut through the big vacant property between George's place and the woods. Property was being developed for something, but it was never finished. Mounds of dirt 10 to 15 feet high spot the area and overgrown with grass and weeds. The property had been sitting unused for years. Get bored, decide to head back. Just rained during the day, so the ground is wet. We reach a swampy area. John and Dan decide they don't want to cross it and cut across a different path than the rest of us. Their path took them into some tall grass and brush. The brush was around 4 to 5 feet in most places. George, Christine, and I reach one of these mounds of dirt and climb it to see if we could see the other 2. Dan wasn't far behind us, but we couldn't find John. We shine our lights over to the reeds and see someone looking back at us. The light wasn't strong enough to make out any features, but we shout out something along the lines of, "John, hurry the fuck up." From off to our left, John replies, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" He had just climbed to the top of the mound, but from a different path Dan did. I guess in the brush they got split up. We looked back to where we thought we saw him, and whoever was there was now walking through the brush, parallel to us. Slowly. My face when... Nope, out of there. All we had was our shitty, cheap flashlights, and it was too far away to really tell. But we thought it was John, a 6-foot-tall, medium-build white guy. I can't say for sure what it was, not claiming that it was Slender Man or anything, but it wasn't an animal. Get back to George's place about 2:30 a.m. I'm too freaked out to go outside again, so we just drink until we pass out.
I can't really remember this too much, but thinking about the idea of me doing it freaks me out. So, my mom used to tell me stories of when I was around 4 years old. We lived in a house with a huge driveway and literally a forest for half of our yard, on an island with a spread-out population of around 9,000, most of which were living around the town part. I lived on the very edge of the island by the beach, far from the town and most of the people. I say this because I miss that island and love visiting it, but it has always had an unsettling vibe when not in the town. Anyway, my mom says I would wake up around 3 a.m., walk out of my room and into the hallway and lay down and stay there for hours. She also says I would sometimes lay down on the stairs to the basement, right beside in the hallway, instead too. I know this is probably somewhat normal for little kids with sleeping problems, but I do faintly remember having one recurring eerie dream that would always involve the hallway. The dream would be me walking into the hallway. The kitchen, at the end of the hallway, would have a light on, but no other rooms would. In fact, my room and my parents' room, across from each other at the opposite end of the hallway from the kitchen and stairs, would always be pitch black. In this dream, I'd sense that I was completely alone, no other people. I'd enter the hallway and see the light in the kitchen and want to get to it. But I couldn't, because there'd be this dark figure there in the kitchen. The dark figure scared me, so I'd just stay where I was. Sometimes the dark figure would move towards me real slowly, and I'd be scared, but then wake up. I don't think it ever made its way to me, and I can't really grasp what it exactly looked like. Part of me wants to remember it Grim Reaper-esque, probably because of the feelings I associated it with. I haven't told this dream to anybody before, so it'd be cool to hear your thoughts or opinions on it and its meaning.
This was 2 weeks ago, visiting parents for summer. The way our house is set up, my room is right in front of a balcony next to our stairs, and from the balcony you can look straight ahead and see the front door. The front door is made mostly of patterned glass with a wood frame. Wake up at 2. Gotta piss. Walk to the bathroom. Coming back, glaze to my left over the balcony at the front door. Our porch light is on. I see a kid, probably 12 or 13, staring into my house and looking around. I'm frozen, staring at him. He stares for another couple seconds, then leaves. Doesn't ever notice me. Hightail it to my bed and hide under the covers like the wuss I am. In retrospect, not all that scary, and I probably should have opened the door and yelled at the little shit. But when that kind of stuff catches you when you're half awake, it's terrifying.
This is not a role play. This is not a joke. This is not trolling. This really happened to me. Even if these are just my delusional thoughts, I still experience them and I can find no way to explain what I saw. All I can say is this. They wanted me to know that they weren't like us. I've spent the last few days in a hospital having tests done. As far as the doctors could make out, I had some sort of seizure, but they couldn't find any damage, something they told me is common enough. The problem was that my brain acted as though it was constantly firing for a while, like I was having an epileptic fit without me actually convulsing. They said more akin to a general seizure, as opposed to a focal seizure. It died down a little while after I had been in the hospital. After everything came back negative, excluding some high blood pressure and a slight iron deficiency, they let me go. I have no history of the disease, no family history, and no problems before this. But it's what I experienced while I was having the first seizure that's knocked my skepticism about. I was walking down the street with my girlfriend, and I apparently just froze. However, to me, everything else froze with me. Everything started stretching and expanding all up to one point. This silvery orb in the sky. I would have thought if shit like that started happening, I'd have panicked normally, but it's like I wasn't operating like I normally do. Like when you're half asleep and you can't work out what day it is or even where you are until you wake up. I was feeling weird but not scared. Then the stretching stopped and I shot through the air. But it wasn't air anymore, it was just blackness. Not like space, but like solid black, like it was a thing. And this is where I start struggling to describe what I saw. I say saw because it wasn't even like I was seeing things. It was like I felt things or understood things, like they were conceptual. I could see myself, but I was all distorted. I was simultaneously stretched but normal at the same time, and I was young and old all at once depending on how deep I looked. And I was terrified because I could see myself moving as I wanted to, but I was seeing it from the wrong place. So I tried closing my eyes, but I only saw myself close my eyes. I did that a few times because it was sort of hypnotic, but then I started turning, like things were being moved around me, but as if I was always looking at it. And I saw colors like I've never experienced before. For some reason, sound and color got confused in my head, and what I saw made sounds. Just messes of colors and flashing before I got enveloped by it all. That's when I first heard the voices. It wasn't words they used, or even concepts I could understand. I knew it wasn't a part of me because it didn't feel right. It felt like it came from somewhere else, and it was too clean or cold. I don't know how to explain it really. Like if you were playing in snow and then run your hands under warm water. That sort of burning cold, but not a feeling, more like a thought. And to start with, I had no idea what was going on. There were shapes that didn't fit, and I felt like I was following the pattern to find where the shapes joined, but they didn't, so I was pulled back. And then I started getting more obvious stuff, like emotions. Like I could feel happiness, not good happiness like joy, but like I just found some money I'd forgotten about in my pocket. Like I was finding something and it was pleasing to me. And then what I can only describe as numbers, like tubes shooting off into the end. But the more I looked, the more the tubes twisted and made me dizzy, like I'd been drinking too much. Until that point, it was all pretty useless, but what followed was confusing. I can't even remember all of it, like a dream you know you've had but can't work out, and I know bits I couldn't possibly remember because I couldn't understand it then. I got the distinct feeling like I could have things explained to me. I wasn't even capable of thinking of important things, but it was things like, where did I put my passport, or what it was like when I was a kid. Like memories wanted to come out and show themselves to me. I remembered all of this, what is now boring, stuff from when I was a kid and even a few days ago. I remember seeing my parents' budgie die when I was a baby and hearing them talking about it, even though I couldn't understand their words. I knew that the budgie wasn't doing anything now, but I couldn't work out why my parents didn't come over to me because I was on my own. But it was like I could feel it all again. I wasn't even looking at my memories for long before I got pulled out and I was surrounded by color again. And this time it hurt my head. Like I was trying to work out something too hard and I wanted to give up, but something was forcing me. Without words, the same coldness from before was trying to do something to me. I couldn't work out what, but I could see like I've never even imagined. I don't even have words to describe it. It was like I saw tiny things but on a massive scale. Like it all made sense to be that way, but it had no way of stopping. Like a loop or something where things go through each other constantly, but you only catch brief glimpses of the whole. And that's when I started having pictures of aliens I'd seen on TV and in films like wallpaper on the loops. But they were like clothes or something, but being held up, like shown to me. And I felt something like contempt and laughter, like I knew that it wasn't important because where I was made more sense. I knew that I wasn't alone where I was, and what was with me was trying to show me things I just couldn't understand. And then suddenly I flattened out. I couldn't even see around me because there was no up or down. Like I saw only a line, but it wasn't even like that. It felt like all of what I was sat alongside emptiness, like you could just throw it away and it wouldn't matter. And as far as I could tell, they, this cold voice, was trying to push the idea that there is a beyond, but I couldn't see it. Like trying to take a step into 10 years or something, it didn't even make sense. And after all of that, I woke up. I was still on the ground in the street. My girlfriend was holding my head and there were people looking at me. I couldn't move properly, like my limbs were stuck or something and I just made gibberish noises. I still say that it felt like hours to me, but it had only been minutes. I blacked out on the way to the hospital, but I felt pretty much normal when I woke up again. What's shaken me up is this fact that I can't trust what I see. If this wasn't real, my brain came up with some insane shit and I just went along with it like it was normal, which means this whole existence could be that too, and I can't even trust myself with what I experience. I could have another seizure and never know about it if I don't get out of it to realize it. And if it was real, there's something fucked up waiting outside of what we can properly process. I don't even know what to describe it like. Not like physical things, but things out there that exist like we don't or can imagine. Even if there was a story on the news tomorrow that we've had contact with something else, I wouldn't even know whether to trust myself seeing it. It's fucked me up.
I think you experienced for a brief moment of what it is like to live outside of time, or in other words, what it's like to live in a higher dimension. What's more important is that you keep an open mind. You won't be able to find out what it is or what caused it if you just ignore it.
Don't get totally obsessive about it. This is the reality you're in now. And since you experienced the huge difference between this and that, you should sense that it is something totally out of our reach. So the only good thing, or the only thing not pointless that you can get out of this, is a little proof that there's more than this to it. So now you have two scenarios. Scenario 1. Okay, I experienced an alternate reality or way of my brain to process reality for a few moments. Since that's something totally different than this and unreachable and irrelevant, I will just use this experience to keep an open-minded vision about everything here. Since it doesn't matter at all if all you're living is a simulation, a seizure itself real or fiction, since there's nothing no one can do about it at all more than take it as experience and learn from it. Period. Scenario 2. OMG, reality isn't real. We're in the Matrix. Then get wrecked about it. Think about it even more every day. Get mad and get schizo about everything without sense at all. You see? Even if we are in the Matrix, there's nothing more to it. Your brain made all of this up? What's up with that? Yeah, that's cool. Now go on and keep living because it's completely irrelevant to your current life universe itself. I mean, come on. If something happens that allows you to choose switching to a better reality, then you'll be like, oh sure, I know what this is about, let's do it. But until then, there's no sense at all in thinking about it too much. Want to know what makes sense? Now that you know there's more to it than this, keep your fucking mind open about everything. Not saying become a next level /X/conspiracy theorist. Just keep an open mind with judgment, and that's the best you can get out of this and makes perfect sense. Period. P.S. Had a similar experience but with some nosebleeding and no damage or drugs as well.
When I was probably in 6th or 7th grade, me and a buddy found a ripped-off deer leg in the middle of a field in the back of my house. It wasn't really that supernaturally terrifying, but there was nothing else but the leg there, and we were just imagining a large coyote dismembering a deer right outside. One time years later, I was riding my bike on some streets in a neighboring city. I was in a densely wooded area in the back of where a long-abandoned old school for mentally disabled people used to be. It was a very narrow path set on both sides by dense groves of young pines. I rode down a bit and saw a tennis ball roll out into the path in front of me. I ride past it, but as I do so, a very odd-looking, balding guy comes out to get it on the path. He definitely looks like he would have been institutionalized in the abandoned school nearby when it was still in use. There was actually another smaller building around that did look like a place that may take care of these people, so I assumed he came out of there. But when he got his ball, then he started to make an awful and loud strange noise at me. It was a sort of angry growl mixed with a confused grunting. I rode as fast as I could out of there, feeling slightly bad that maybe I should have informed someone of an escapee. He got his ball, though. I wish I could remember this better, actually.
I've got an experience to share. Be me, be just out of college, be working at a bar owned by a Haitian man and his Jamaican wife. Lots of fake voodoo hoodoo stuff up on the walls of the bar. Always joke around with them about it. One day I hear a cemetery is being built next door in the vacant lot. Cool. After a few months, construction is done, and they start preparing to receive bodies. Very classy place, full of mausoleums and cool headstones, nobody actually buried yet. The first burial is officially occurring. Some Haitian refugee that the bar owner claims to know. I go to the burial just to watch. He gets buried, dressed kinda funny. Dinner jacket and tux, black top hat, and cotton plugs in his nose. No one mentions it when he's being buried, so I don't say anything. Go back to the bar afterwards, fairly busy. Suddenly things slow down a lot. Everybody leaves really rapidly. Weird. Suddenly a man walks in, dressed in a tuxedo with a top hat and a purple bow tie, smoking a cigarette furiously. What can I get you, sir? Rum, strongest you've got. Get him his drink, take a good look at him. Not a skinny guy, but his face is almost skeletal. Whatever, continue helping other customers. Suddenly, laughter. Tux guy is cracking up next to one of our oldest regulars. He's a real old Haitian and he loves cracking dirty jokes whenever he can. Tux guy starts telling his own dirty jokes. They're both roaring with laughter. A few minutes later, the owner comes out to ask me something, sees the Tux guy at the bar, goes all pale and scared, walks over to talk to him, talks for a long time. Tux guy keeps nodding and smiling, taking drags on his cigarette and drinking his rum. I've been topping him off. I overheard the word Baron a couple of times. The owner goes into the back, comes back with a box of peppers, gives it to the Tux guy. He starts eating them like candy. A few hours later he leaves, drank our regular under the table. We almost ran out of rum. Leaves a $1,000 tip. Does this count as /X/?
I used to do a lot of adventure fishing, where I hike into remote rivers and lakes to fish relatively untapped waters. Getting busy with my job, I have not been able to do it much in the last few years, so when the chance came a few weeks ago, I had to take it. My friend that I usually go with bailed at the last minute, but I decided to make a go of it myself. I went out to a lake called Finstad Lake in the Boundary Waters area of northern Minnesota. It is a decent hike to get there off of a fairly crappy logging road, truly in the middle of nowhere. Anyhow, I got out there and fished the shit out of it with a float tube, kind of a one-man raft. I had heard from an old-timer that it had good smallies in there, and it did. I fished late and camped on a little rocky point on the north side. That night, there were so many weird sounds coming from the woods that I could barely sleep. There was something big, moose, bear, I don't know, out crashing around into the woods. There were weird ass screams from some animal. I was a little on edge about that when I heard music. It was classical music. I could not tell where it was coming from. It was faint, but it went on for over 2 hours. It was a mix of stuff, sounded like maybe NPR. Then it switched over to Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. There was someone out there. I could not see any fires other than mine. I put out my fire and packed my shit up and moved way back off of the lake to a little rise farther north. I just plopped down, rolled down, and laid there. About an hour later, I heard voices coming from the area where I had been camping. I freaked out and hunkered down. After a while, they left, but I could not sleep. As soon as it got close to dawn, I was packed up. I went back down to the lake but did not see shit. I GTFO soon after. I cannot stress how far off the beaten path that I was.
Something really strange is happening to me, and I think my house might be haunted. I'll Greentext the thing so it makes it easier. My brother recently died in a car crash. He was 25, I'm 23. In our childhood and early adolescence, we were pretty close and would always look for each other. He was pronounced dead at the site of the accident, and months have passed since my mom and dad started talking to each other. The past months were quite grim in our household. I start to see my brother when I go to sleep. I'd be woken up in the middle of the night, and he'd be lying on the floor next to my bed face down. I wasn't sure who it was. Be pretty freaked out by it. Start to scream, and the body disappeared. This continued for a couple of nights. One night the same thing happens, body lying tummy down next to bed. Again I'm horrified and start to scream. The body does not disappear, but something freaky as shit. It starts slowly dragging itself towards my door out of the room. I always sleep with the door open. It never shows his face. My parents come to my room, but the body is gone. Tell them that it was a nightmare. Next night, the same thing. I'm awakened by some mumbles. Slowly open my eyes, see my brother's body on the floor next to bed looking at me with this dead expression. I freak out. He silently looks at me, starts dragging himself to my bed. I tried pushing him away, but he's actually very strong. Starts choking me. Always this dead expression. His mouth is dragged to one side. Starts mumbling. I scream. My parents came to my room. He's gone. Start making another nightmare excuse. Next morning, my mom is in the kitchen, pale and depressed. Says, "I've seen him grabbing you." Why does my dead brother want me harm? What the fuck/x/? I'm scared shitless. The last couple of nights were uneventful, but I'm always nervous about going to sleep.
Back in 2011, I was locked in my barracks room and was forced to not drink for 3 days. I was drinking a 1.75-litre handle of liquor every night for like 5 months straight. I had sleep paralysis for 3 nights straight, and every time it happened, a dark figure would pull me off of my bed by one of my ankles and slowly move my body upward until my face was looking directly at him. The first 2 nights, I managed to wake myself up before looking into its face. The third night, it brought me up to his eye level, even though I was trying so hard to wake up, and then my surroundings turned black-white. As in my barracks room was the same, but all in black and white, except for 2 things: an orange and ominous glow out of the window and his face. It was pure blackness, like so dark that I couldn't comprehend it, like it was the blackest shade you could imagine times 1,000,000. I can't explain it. but the color of it under the hood it was wearing was all I could see, and it scared me for weeks. I was afraid to see it again. Never did have that encounter ever again, and haven't drank since.
Man, I hope this didn't happen in Korea. I've never had my eyes open in sleep paralysis, so I just see shapes and feel colors or something. It's hard to explain, but it's like I'm floating in the universe and I am the universe at the same time. Usually everything feels warm and numb, but dark colors come and go, and shapes do as well. Well, this one night in Korea in my barracks was different. I opened my eyes somehow and saw clear as day an old Asian soldier sitting by my barracks window. It looked like clothing from maybe the 50s. Before I had time to even feel terror, this guy took off his hat and ran into my bathroom. Then he kept peeking around the corner and would look at me. His eyes were full of terror, and every time he peeked at me, he would whisper, "Jongji." At this time, I was able to read and write Korean, and the stop signs said this word, so I knew it. It means halt. So stop, but is more formal or militaristic. I don't know what he wanted me to stop, but he did this slowly every few minutes for a while, until I saw a blue light glowing in my bathroom, and then I was able to move. No joke. I vomited right after and overslept. I was almost late for PT. Luckily, my platoon sergeant was wasted the night before too, so we ran around the block and did stretches for an hour, but yeah, terrifying. Never happened again. That was the single time my eyes opened during my sleep paralysis.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.